Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are tuning in for the very first time, I want to say a genuine and heartfelt welcome, and I am so glad that out of everything you could have clicked on today, you chose this video. And if you have been part of this community for a while, you already know that when something happens in the world of Jungkook that feels genuinely historic, not just exciting, not just fun, but actually historic, we do not let it pass without giving it the full, serious, detailed attention it deserves. And what happened on June 4, 2026 in the Harajuku district of Tokyo, Japan, is exactly that kind of moment. It is the kind of moment that, when you zoom out and look at the full picture of everything that led to it and everything it represents, leaves you genuinely speechless. So before we go any further, please hit that like button, make sure you are subscribed so you never miss a single video on this channel, and let us get into the full story of what happened at the Calvin Klein Harajuku Flagship store and why it matters so much more than a single fashion event. Let us start from the very beginning, because to truly understand what happened on June 4th, you need to understand the full arc of the relationship between Jungkook and Calvin Klein, how it began, how it evolved, and how it arrived at the extraordinary moment we witnessed this week. The story starts in March 2023, when Calvin Klein announced Jungkook as their new global brand ambassador. At the time, the announcement sent shockwaves through both the fashion world and the K-pop fandom simultaneously. Calvin Klein is not just any fashion brand. It is an American institution. Founded in New York in 1968, it is a label that has spent over 5 decades shaping the visual and cultural language of American fashion. It has dressed icons. It has produced some of the most memorable and culturally resonant advertising campaigns in fashion history. When Calvin Klein chooses a global ambassador, they are not just choosing a person with a large following. They are choosing a face and a figure that they believe embodies something essential about what their brand stands for, something about attitude, about confidence, about the particular kind of effortless cool that Calvin Klein has always projected into the world. And in March 2023, that face was Jungkook. Almost immediately after the announcement, hashtags including Jungkook XALVNKLN, JKXCK, Jungkook and Calvin's, and John Jungkook topped real-time trends in 172 countries, including worldwide trends. Products worn by Jungkook in photoshoots sold out instantly, with all sizes completely sold out. That is not a slow build. That is not a gradual accumulation of commercial impact over months and years. That is an immediate, explosive, global response to a single announcement. And it told the fashion industry something they needed to hear very clearly, that Jungkook was not just a popular person who would look good in their clothes. He was a commercial force of nature whose connection to his audience translated directly and powerfully into purchasing behavior at a scale that most brand ambassadors simply cannot match. Over the following years, that commercial reality continued to prove itself over and over again. A single Instagram post capturing his arrival at the 2026 Spring-Summer New York Fashion Week event generated a media exposure value of $825,000, approximately 1.15 billion Korean won. Think about what that number means in practical terms. One post. One appearance. One photograph of Jungkook arriving at a Fashion Week event wearing Calvin Klein products. And the measurable media value generated by that single moment was close to $1 million. That is the kind of return on investment that makes brand executives sit up very straight in their chairs. That is the kind of impact that turns a celebrity endorsement relationship into something much more significant, into a genuine creative and commercial partnership where both parties have an enormous stake in each other's success. And that is exactly what the CKJK collaboration represents. Because what was announced in May 2026 was not another round of campaign photos of Jungkook wearing Calvin Klein's existing products. This represents a significant evolution from traditional celebrity endorsement to designer partnership. The capsule has special logo branding CKJK, interior woven labels, hidden embroidery, Jungkook-inspired graphics and custom denim washes, as well as exclusive packaging. Every detail of this collection, from the branding to the graphics to the denim washes to the packaging, was developed with Jungkook's direct creative input and personal aesthetic. The 20-piece capsule line blends signature denim, outerwear, and accessories with co-branded CKJK branding, reflecting his personal style and passion for motorcycle aesthetics. This is not a celebrity slapping their name on a pre-existing product line. This is an artist bringing his actual identity, his love of motorcycles, his personal style sensibility, his specific visual language, to a creative collaboration with one of the most iconic fashion brands in American history. This collaboration brings together two cultural forces at full power, combining the unmistakable influence of Jungkook with Calvin Klein's iconic brand codes to create something with real impact, said David Sapman, global brand president of Calvin Klein. Two cultural forces at full power. That is how the global brand president of Calvin Klein chose to describe this collaboration publicly. Not an idol and a fashion brand. Not a celebrity and a sponsor. Two cultural forces. Equal footing. Mutual power. That framing is enormously significant, and it reflects something true about the balance of this relationship, the fact that Jungkook brings something to Calvin Klein that is not simply commercial but genuinely cultural, and that Calvin Klein recognizes and articulates that clearly. Now let us talk about the collection itself and what made it so extraordinary as a commercial event, because the numbers tell a story that is almost impossible to believe even for those of us who have been following Jungkook's impact for years. Jungkook for Calvin Klein became available on calvinklein.com/ckjk in participating markets beginning May 19, 2026 at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and in select Calvin Klein stores and wholesale partners on May 20, 2026, with retail prices ranging from $29 to $699. The price range alone tells you something interesting about the breadth of the collection and its accessibility. This was not a collection designed exclusively for fashion insiders with unlimited budgets. It was designed to be worn, to be lived in, to be accessible to the broad and diverse global community that Jungkook connects with. And that community responded with the kind of enthusiasm that brought servers to their knees and cleared shelves faster than almost anyone had predicted. The website crashed. Items sold out within minutes of dropping online. Social media was flooded with posts from fans around the world who had stayed up through the night in their respective time zones to secure pieces from the collection. The commercial response was, by any measure, extraordinary. Limited edition men's and women's underwear styles were available exclusively at Calvin Klein's Harajuku, Soho, and Champs-Élysées flagship stores. This exclusivity strategy is a key part of understanding why the Harajuku flagship store became such a focal point for the CKJK story. By making certain pieces available only at 3 specific locations, in Tokyo, New York, and Paris, Calvin Klein was not just managing inventory. They were creating destinations. They were saying that these 3 cities, and these 3 stores, were the global heartbeat of the CKJK collaboration. And of those 3 cities, Tokyo, and specifically the Harajuku district, holds particular significance for both Jungkook personally and for the broader cultural moment that CKJK represents. Harajuku is not just a neighborhood in Tokyo. It is one of the most culturally charged fashion districts in the world. It is a place where street fashion, high fashion, subculture, and global influence converge in a way that is unique to that particular stretch of Tokyo. Bespoke retail pop-ups in Los Angeles, Singapore, Thailand, Sydney, Melbourne, Taiwan, Malaysia, Shenzhen, Chongqing and Shanghai were planned to further bring consumers into the world of the collaboration. The global footprint of the CKJK rollout was genuinely staggering, covering cities across 4 continents, engaging local communities in markets as different from each other as Los Angeles and Shanghai. But of all those locations, Harajuku remained the emotional and cultural center. And that made what happened on June 4 all the more significant. BTS member Jungkook officially attended Calvin Klein's CKJK collection event in Tokyo, Japan, on June 4, 2026, following hours of online speculation about his appearance. The event was held at Calvin Klein's Harajuku store for the promotion of Jungkook's collaborative CKJK collection. What I want to highlight here is the phrase "following hours of online speculation." Because the story of June 4 did not begin when Jungkook arrived at the Harajuku store. It began much earlier in the day, when eagle-eyed fans noticed something. According to fan accounts circulating online, people began assembling near the venue after news spread on social media that Jungkook had departed from Gimpo Airport for an overseas schedule. Despite there being no official confirmation that he would attend the Calvin Klein event, photos and videos of the growing crowd quickly circulated. Think about what that means. No announcement. No confirmation. Just the information that Jungkook had left Korea for an overseas schedule, and a crowd began to gather outside the Calvin Klein flagship store in Harajuku. Because ARMY put the pieces together. They knew about the CKJK collection. They knew about the exclusive Harajuku items. They knew about Jungkook's history with Calvin Klein in Tokyo. And they acted on that knowledge, showing up hours before anyone had officially confirmed anything, filling the street outside the flagship store with energy and anticipation and love. That kind of fan intelligence and dedication is itself part of the story of why Jungkook's relationship with Calvin Klein is so different from a typical celebrity brand partnership. His audience does not just passively consume the content that comes out of these collaborations. They actively participate in creating the cultural moment around them. They are part of the event before the event officially begins. The singer arrived wearing pieces from the collection, opting for a blue denim shirt, matching denim pants and a charcoal leather jacket with his name embossed across the back in bold white lettering. He completed the look with black boots and his signature silver hoop earrings. The choice of outfit was itself a statement. By wearing the collection he co-designed, Jungkook was not just promoting a product. He was embodying it. He was saying, "This is mine, this came from me, this is what I wanted to make." The leather jacket with his name on the back is particularly symbolic. It is a piece that makes Jungkook's authorship of the collection physically visible and literally wearable. It is a fashion equivalent of signing a piece of work. And seeing him arrive in Harajuku wearing it sent a very clear message about how personally invested he was in this collaboration and this moment. PVH Japan president wrote, "All eyes on Jungkook outside the Calvin Klein Harajuku flagship store for the campaign premiere. Spellbound." And then simply, "Welcome back JK." The president of PVH Japan, the executive overseeing Calvin Klein's operations in Japan, used the word spellbound. Not impressive. Not well attended. Spellbound. That is the word you choose when what you are witnessing goes beyond your expectations. When the energy and the presence and the magnitude of a moment exceeds what you had prepared for. And the simple phrase, "Welcome back JK," carries within it an entire history, the acknowledgement that Jungkook belongs in this space, that his presence at the Harajuku flagship is not a visit but a homecoming, that the relationship between this artist and this city and this brand has a continuity and a depth that goes beyond any single event. At the event, Jungkook posed for photographers and spoke briefly with members of the press during a series of media interviews. During an interview with ELLE Japan at the event, Jungkook pointed to a black trucker jacket from the CKJK collection and shared that he would like to give one to each BTS member. Referring to the collection's biker-inspired concept, he jokingly remarked that he would put on the full outfit, ride a motorcycle to wherever the members were, and personally deliver the jackets to them. I want to pause on this moment because I think it reveals something genuinely beautiful about who Jungkook is and how he experiences success. Here he is at one of the biggest events of his fashion career, at the flagship store of one of the world's most iconic fashion brands, in one of the most fashion-forward neighborhoods in the world, surrounded by press and photographers and thousands of fans, and his first instinct when pointing to a piece from his own collection is to think about how he could give it to his bandmates. To think about riding a motorcycle, which is itself a reference to the biker aesthetic at the heart of the CKJK collection, to wherever RM and Jin and Suga and J-Hope and Jimin and VR, just to bring them each a jacket. That is not a carefully crafted PR response. That is Jungkook being exactly who he is, someone for whom no amount of individual success ever stops feeling like something he wants to share with the 7 people he has grown up alongside. Also in attendance was 17's member Mingyu, who appeared at the event as a Calvin Klein ambassador. The two artists, known for their close friendship, later posed together for photographers, drawing attention from media. The presence of Mingyu added another dimension to an already layered event. As a fellow Calvin Klein ambassador and someone with a well-documented friendship with Jungkook, Mingyu's appearance alongside him at the Harajuku event brought together two of the most prominent Korean artists in the global fashion space in a single frame. The response from fans of both artists was immediate and overwhelming. Social media flooded with posts celebrating the friendship, the shared brand connection, and the visual of these two people standing together in a space that both of them have contributed significantly to defining in the K-pop meets luxury fashion cultural conversation. Now I want to step back and look at the really big picture, because everything we have covered today is part of something much larger, something that has implications not just for Jungkook's individual career but for the ongoing story of Korean cultural influence in the global mainstream. What the CKJK collaboration represents, in its full scope, is something unprecedented. It is a moment where an American fashion brand that has been a cornerstone of the global fashion industry for almost 60 years looked at the cultural landscape and made a deliberate, committed, deeply invested choice to partner with a Korean artist not as a spokesperson but as a co-creator. Not to access his audience as a marketing channel but to genuinely fuse his creative identity with theirs. To say, the things that make Jungkook who he is, his aesthetic, his sensibility, his specific way of seeing and presenting himself in the world, those things are compatible with and enriching to what Calvin Klein has always stood for. That is a profound statement about how far Korean cultural influence has traveled and how deeply it has embedded itself in the global mainstream. The biker-inspired aesthetic at the heart of CKJK is particularly meaningful in this context. Motorcycle culture has deep roots in American iconography. It is associated with freedom, rebellion, individualism, the open road, and a particular kind of rugged cool that has been part of the American cultural imagination since the mid-20th century. And yet when Jungkook brings his personal passion for motorcycles into a collaboration with an American fashion brand, the result does not feel like cultural appropriation or superficial borrowing. It feels like genuine synthesis. It feels like two things that belong together, Jungkook's identity and Calvin Klein's heritage, finding each other and producing something that is neither fully Korean nor fully American but something new. Something that exists in the cultural space between the two, accessible and meaningful to audiences on both sides and everywhere in between. The global rollout of the CKJK collection pop-ups across cities from Los Angeles to Shanghai to Sydney to Singapore is itself a map of how that cultural synthesis has spread. This is not a collection marketed to one demographic or one geographic audience. It is a collection designed to be wanted everywhere, by people who know Jungkook deeply and by people who are encountering him for the first time through the lens of a brand they have loved for years. And the fact that it sold out almost everywhere it was available, the fact that it crashed websites and cleared store shelves and generated media coverage from fashion press and entertainment media and business publications simultaneously, tells you that this synthesis is working. It tells you that the cultural bridge Jungkook has been building between Korea and the rest of the world is strong enough to carry something as commercially significant as a co-designed capsule collection for one of the most recognizable fashion brands on the planet. And then there is the moment at the Harajuku Flagship store on June 4th. Because everything we have been discussing, the commercial impact, the creative partnership, the global rollout, the cultural significance, all of it converged in a single physical space on a single evening in Tokyo. The crowd that gathered outside. The president of PVH Japan writing spellbound on social media. The press who came to document the event. Mingyu standing alongside Jungkook for photographers. Jungkook himself arriving in his own collection, wearing his own name on his back, talking about riding a motorcycle to deliver jackets to his best friends. All of it together adds up to something that is much more than a fashion event. It is a cultural milestone. It is a moment that will be written about and analyzed and celebrated long after the individual pieces of the CKJK collection have been worn and washed and loved into their second and third years of life. For ARMY, watching this happen carries a specific kind of emotional weight that I think is worth acknowledging directly. Because we have been with Jungkook for a long time. We watched him debut at 15. We watched him navigate the enormous pressures and demands of being the youngest member of the biggest boy band in the world. We watched him grow into his own as a solo artist and as a public figure and as a genuinely remarkable human being. And now we get to watch him stand in the street outside a Calvin Klein flagship store in Harajuku, Tokyo, wearing a jacket with his own name on the back, having co-designed an entire collection for one of the most iconic brands in fashion history, with the president of the brand's Japan operations using the word spellbound to describe the moment. We get to watch the world treating him with exactly the level of recognition and respect that we have always known he deserved. And that feels good. That feels genuinely, deeply, gratifyingly good. So the next time someone asks you what the CKJK event in Harajuku on June 4th was really about, you tell them the full story. You tell them about 3 years of a relationship that went from ambassador to co-creator. You tell them about a collection that sold out within minutes and crashed websites across multiple continents. You tell them about a crowd that gathered hours before any official confirmation, because they knew. You tell them about a leather jacket with a name embossed on the back, and a joke about riding a motorcycle to bring gifts to 6 best friends. You tell them about a PVH Japan president standing outside a flagship store in Harajuku writing the word spellbound. You tell them about two cultural forces at full power. And you tell them that the Harajuku Flagship store was not just the location for an event. It was the main event. Because Jungkook was there. And wherever Jungkook goes, that is exactly what it becomes. Thank you so much for watching today's video all the way through. If any part of this story moved you or gave you a new perspective on just how significant the CKJK collaboration truly is, please show some love with a thumbs up. It helps this channel more than you know, and it tells me that this is the kind of deep dive content you want to see more of. If you are not subscribed yet, now is the perfect time. We have so much more coming as this era of Jungkook's career continues to unfold in ways that are genuinely extraordinary to witness. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to know what moment from the Harajuku event hit you the hardest. Was it the jacket with his name on it? Was it the motorcycle joke about the BTS members? Was it the PBH Japan president's social media post? Tell me everything. I read every single comment, and this community always has the most thoughtful and passionate things to say. Take care of yourselves. I will see you in the next one.